crackdown against USAID by the Trump administration is concerned. Viewers, a political row over the USAID funds is raging on between the Congress and the BJP over here. Now, amidst this, Donald Trump has repeated his claim for a third day in a row that $21 million was granted to India for voter turnout. Trump's latest salvo comes after a media report claimed that a $21 million USAID grant was actually allocated for Bangladesh in 2022 and not India. The Congress had waived this report and it dismissed the BJP's charge of alleged foreign interference in India's electoral process. Now, Trump has categorically added that a $29 million fund was granted towards apparently strengthening the political landscape of Bangladesh, which differs from the $21 million fund that was granted to India. This directly contradicts the claims that were made in the media report. Trump's fresh statement comes, of course, after he defended Elon Musk's decision to cut this aid to India. Musk's Department of Government Efficiency had earlier flagged the money as being given to India, and Musk's move itself had raised eyebrows back home. It ignited a war of words between the BJP and the Congress, with both parties leveling charges of interference. Trump, of course, then waded into the row. He, of course, stated, and I'm quoting what he said that they guess they tried to change the government over there. Now, of course, what's interesting is that the $21 million grant was linked to a coalition of NGOs, the CEPPS or SEPS, which in turn is linked to the International Foundation for Electoral System. But the larger question right now is, did USAID meddle in Indian elections? And that is not all. Where exactly was the money funneled and who gained from this money? These are, of course, questions that are on our mind, and to further discuss this, joining us on the broadcast live is Professor Madhav Nalapat, Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian, as well as Sumit Peer, political commentator. But before I rope in our guests, let's in fact listen in to what exactly Donald Trump has stated now.
Participatory political process in Moldova, and $21 million going to my friend, Prime Minister Modi in India, for voter turnout. We're giving $21 million for voter turnout in India. What about us? I want voter turnout too, Governor. $29 million to strengthen the political landscape in Bangladesh. Went to a firm that nobody ever heard of. Got $29 million. They got a check. Can you imagine? You have a little firm, you get 10,000 here, 10,000 there. And then we get $29 million from the United States government. There are two people working in that firm. Two people. I think they're very happy. They're very rich. They'll be on the cover of a very good business magazine pretty soon. Too soon.
All right, there, of course, viewers, you've heard what Donald Trump has had to say. I'd like to rope in Professor Nalapat, who's live with us on the broadcast at the moment. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for speaking to NewsX. Trump has made a rather interesting observation. He said that he'd rather increase the voter turnout and divert those funds towards the United States itself. India had registered a 66.10 voter turnout in our Lok Sabha elections last year. Meanwhile, the US elections had registered a voter turnout of below 60%. So why were these funds given to India in the very first place? And who exactly benefited from the USAID grant? Was the USAID trying to meddle in the Indian elections?
There's no doubt the US has been trying to meddle in various elections all over the world. And frankly, even in Europe, they got an election cancelled because of their influence on the Constitutional Court, and basically because in their view the wrong person was chosen by the electorate. Now the sovereign right of the electorate to choose whomever they want is there, and unfortunately previous US administration said you have the sovereign right to choose whom we choose and nobody else. So that has been going on, and there's no doubt there's been an ongoing campaign against Prime Minister Modi. I mean, you can see that in the in social media, in these bought and paid for messaging that comes out in social media, telling all kinds of lies about the Prime Minister, and about our country. That we are awash in communal incidents, we are awash in all kinds of horrible activities taking place against the minorities. The minorities in India are well over 220 million, and they're a very proud and productive part of our society. There are countries where minorities have almost disappeared. There are countries where they are rapidly disappearing. There is Bangladesh. In Afghanistan, they've almost disappeared. In Pakistan, they've almost disappeared. Not that any of these so-called human rights warriors are concerned about these facts. All they want is to peddle the fiction that is happening in India. And why? Because they have an agenda against Prime Minister Modi, because he stands for India first, the way Donald Trump stands for America first. What's wrong with the leader of a country putting his own country first rather than the interests of any other country? Well, those who disburse such aid, they wanted India to be beholden to the interests of another country. And I can tell you, it's not just the Americans, the Chinese also have been very active in covertly funding all kinds of negative activities against the Prime Minister and against India. The intention is to basically try and politically weaken an individual who's standing tall in defense of Indian interests, and to try and defame a country internationally that is frankly has a high potential for attracting a huge amount of the investment that is necessarily flowing out from China as a consequence of the ongoing Cold War 2.0. So there is no question that these reports are right. There may be some technicality here and there, but on the basis of technicality, you cannot throw out the substantive fact. And the substantive fact is an intense effort has been ongoing very, very actively since 2014, when Prime Minister Modi came to power, and 2019, when he was re-elected to power, and especially in the 2024 elections, to try and ensure that he is voted out of power. And now this has been confirmed by no less than the US president. So I think the facts are self-evident, the realities are obvious, and I'm very happy it's happening. I'm equally happy that the Ministry of Home Affairs, no doubt assisted by the External Affairs Ministry, is going to come to all the facts about who exactly has got this kind of money. And I think these people, these institutions need to be basically identified and named so the Indian public is aware of what exactly has been happening. Prime Minister Modi has been talking about this some time, and there were efforts to basically belittle his comments. But now he
In
has
fact,
been
made
proved
these comments, as you point out correctly, Professor Nalapat. I'll just rope you in once again. We also have Sumit Peer joining us. As you point out correctly, Prime Minister Modi had in fact spoken about, and he had alluded to this right before the budget session of the Parliament commenced as well. We are also being joined by a political commentator, Mr. Sumit Peer. So, good afternoon and thank you for speaking to NewsX. You've just heard what Professor Nalapat has had to say about the third time that Trump has made this statement. It's a very pointed message that is being sent out by the Donald Trump administration to not just India but to the world and to those who are trying to pull the strings behind. Who do you think this money was funneled to?
Piyaji, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. I will start where Professor Saab left. Look, there is a very clear-cut message, and there is no doubt, there has to be no ambiguity that money was sent to interfere in the election process of India. Money was sent to destabilize Prime Minister Modi. Money was sent to destabilize the democracy of the largest democracy of the world, that is India. And somehow the Indian interests had to be compromised. 1.4 billion people's interests had to be compromised. Money was sent for that. It could not be without some leaders of opposition. We can't name them right now, but there will be some leaders, prominent leaders of opposition who were involved. There will be a group of NGOs who will be involved, and there might be even some ex-bureaucrats or somebody like that who were involved in doing this. Because now Donald Trump, again saying it in 4 days in a row, means he's reiterating the fact. He's not letting issue die. It's not a passing reference. It's a very prominent fact that, look, this has happened to you because Trump knows if India is weakened, the world's largest democracy will be weakened, and so forth. All other democracies can be scuttled. If you can scuttle democracy in India, then forget those chota-mota countries like, for example, Singapore or Denmark. They are a cakewalk then. So President Trump is concerned, and he is concerned about India, and he sees India as a long-term partner for the democracies in the United States of America to grow. What Professor Saab was rightly saying, there's also a lot of money which gets channelized from China. And this money is against all anti-India activities, against Prime Minister Modi. Because if any world leader has stood up to Xi Jinping before the Americans do it, or before anybody else could do, that was Bharat and that was Modi ji. This nationalistic flavor of Modi ji, this nationalistic image of Modi ji, they call him authoritarian there. I mean, in their internal reports, they call him authoritarian. But is being a nationalist authoritarian? Is thinking for India being authoritarian? Is thinking for 1.4 billion people being authoritarian? No, it is not. And this is exactly what they want. They want people who will talk here in New Delhi coalition dharma. They want people who will talk of alliance politics. There are people who will talk of hum dekhenge, humne dekha, hum dekhte rahenge. These are the kind of people they want. They want, the decision should be taken in America, somewhere in a deep state, go down, and they should become law in India. When these things are not happening, when India is exporting arms, India has become independent, and your economy is growing at more than 7%. So these people are seeing Prime Minister Modi as one of the irritants in that. I'm using the word irritant, or the major stumbling block. And all this money is being somehow sent to do this. Because if you look at, for example, Shaheen Bagh or any protest for that matter, where did the Kudrati biryani come from? Kudrati biryani is not Kudrati. There was somebody paying the money. Then we discovered one Maulana Sahib got 75 crores. So the question here is Andolan Jivis, what Prime Minister Modi rightly tells them. Where do Andolan Jivis get funded? Who pays for their train ticket, air ticket, their stays, their hotels, jande, one day, what they use for protests, gathering all those crowds, paying for their food, water expenses? Where does this all money come from? Again, these are efforts which are done to destabilize India, and the President of America is again reiterating the fact. He's bringing it again and again and again because that is what he can do. Beyond that, we have to really find the people. We have to find those things like, if you look at this internet network thing, according to that expose, there are 86 journalists PRG in India who are on their payrolls. Who are these 86 journalists? How much money they have got? Then there are multiple such organizations and NGOs which are working around the world. $3.6 billion at a global level was allocated to them from USAID. And for example, look at Bangladesh. $29 million are sent to a two-man company. दो आदमी की company को $29 million भेज दिए in a country like Bangladesh. Even if you go by the normal standards, around 250 crores coming to a partnership between me and you. I mean, it is atrocious. What will we do with 250 crore rupees? Obviously, there are kickbacks. So Donald Trump is right saying there are kickbacks which are given to people to destabilize regimes and do the regime change. I think Americans have done what they have to do. The onus is on us, and I'm very sure Prime Minister Modi will get cracking because if you remember at the win of the Delhi elections, he was very clear in saying, जिन्होंने देश को लूटा है, लौटाना पड़ेगा, ये भी मोदी की गारंटी है. So I'm looking for that guarantee to come up, and these people cannot be left scot-free. PRG, the fact remains, if you leave them scot-free, they will again find one more bidder. They will find one more person who is ready to destabilize India, and unfortunately, there's not a dearth of them.
All right, sir. I'd like to thank you for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX. But before we move on, I'd like to pose one last question to Professor Nalapat, who's still with us on the broadcast. Sir, you've, of course, spoken about the agencies at home taking cognizance of this. MEA has, of course, reacted to Trump's statements, branding the revelations made by the Department of Government Efficiency as deeply troubling. So, is it time to probe the beneficiaries?
If you go back and look at your files, you'll notice that I said during the time of these Shaheen Bagh protests exactly who's paying for all that food, who's paying for all the other expenses. That's $1 million. That's a 100 100 crore question. And I'm happy to say that the NewsX channel was probably the first to air that suspicion. So I'd like to say very clearly that the sooner the Ministry of Home Affairs comes up with the names, the better. The Indian people deserve to know who these people are, because India has a long history of being betrayed from within for the sake of external interests that then succeed in dominating us. So I think the sooner these names are made public, the sooner they're uncovered, and I'm sure that Home Minister Amit Shah will be working very, very hard along with External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, to ensure that the names, the actual names, come out. And remember, these are not allegations. These are not insinuations. These are proven facts revealed by the US government itself. Thank you.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you as well as Mr. Sumit Peer for having taken our time speaking to us on the broadcast. Meanwhile, viewers, we all know that a war of words is raging on at our home as well, especially between the BJP and the Congress as far as Trump's comments and Musk's revelations are concerned. My colleague Sanjay Sharma has spoken to BJP National General Secretary Dushyant Gautam as well as former Union Minister Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi. Let's in fact listen in to what they have to say about this.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी के राष्ट्रीय महासचिव दुष्यंत गौतम जी हमारे साथ में मौजूद हैं। दुष्यंत जी, अमेरिका कह रहा है कि चुनाव के दौरान फंडिंग की गई थी नरेंद्र मोदी को हराने के लिए। इस पर विदेश मंत्रालय भी कह रहा है कि इस तरह का काम नहीं होना चाहिए।
देखिए, दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है कि फंडिंग विदेशों से हुई और देश के लोगों को इस्तेमाल किया गया और देश के लोग इस्तेमाल हुए सरकार को गिराने के लिए। उस सरकार को जो लोकतांत्रिक तरीके से चुनी गई है, जिसको पूरे विश्व का सहयोग मिला हुआ है, जो जन साधारण के दिल में वास करती है, सबका साथ सबका विकास को लेके मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में तीसरी बार प्रधानमंत्री बने हैं। ये लोकतंत्र की हत्या है, संविधान की हत्या है और उसमें कांग्रेस जैसे लोगों का नाम आना ये सबसे ज़्यादा दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है, क्योंकि इनके लक्षण पहले से ही दिखाए हैं। हमेशा राहुल गांधी विदेशों में जाके देश की बदनामी का काम करते हैं। अय्यर जी पाकिस्तान में बैठकर मोदी की सरकार को गिराने का षड्यंत्र करते हैं। ये लोग विदेशों से मिलकर लोकतंत्र की हत्या करना चाहते हैं। आज देश की जनता को मालूम पड़ गया है संविधान का रक्षक कौन है और भक्षक कौन है।
सर, कांग्रेस पार्टी की तरफ से ये कहा जा रहा है कि अमेरिका से फंडिंग खाली कांग्रेस पार्टी को नहीं मिलती, कई लोगों को मिलती।
हाँ, कांग्रेस को भी मिलती है। हमारा कहने का मतलब ये है, अगर 4 चोर पकड़े जाते हैं, कहते हैं 4 पकड़े गए, हम भी पकड़े गए, तो क्या परेशानी है। तो मुझे लगता है इनको अपने चरित्र को देख।
पूर्व केंद्रीय मंत्री बीजेपी के वरिष्ठ नेता डॉक्टर मुख्तार अब्बास नकवी साहब साथ में मौजूद हैं। नकवी साहब, कांग्रेस पार्टी को अमेरिका से फंडिंग मिली नरेंद्र मोदी को हराने के लिए, अब तो ये बात स्वीकार कर ली कांग्रेस।
देखो, मोदी जी के काम के करिश्मे ने कांग्रेस के कैलकुलेशन का कबाड़ा किया है। अब जब मोदी जी के काम का करिश्मा और कांग्रेस के कैलकुलेशन का कबाड़ा करेगा, तो इसी तरह की जो है विदेशी सुपारी और विरोधी सियासत करती हुई दिखाई पड़ेगी कांग्रेस पार्टी। और इस तरह से जो है वो डॉलर की सुपारी और डायनेस्टी की सियासत आपके सामने दिखाई पड़ेगी। आज की तारीख में आज नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने जिस तरह से समावेशी विकास, सर्वस्पर्शी सशक्तिकरण के रास्ते पे देश को खड़ा किया है और सुशासन और स्थायित्व के जरिए देश की धाग और धमक को पूरी दुनिया में धारदार बनाया है, उस धाग और धमक को धूमिल करने की धूर्ततापूर्ण धुन वाले दूसरित हो रहे हैं।
सर, कांग्रेस पार्टी का यह भी कहना है कि अमेरिका से फंडिंग सिर्फ उन्हीं को नहीं मिलती, और भी लोगों को मिलती है।
ऐसा है कि सवाल यहाँ ये फंडिंग का नहीं है। इस फंडिंग को आपके पीछे आपकी सोच और आपकी मंशा और आपकी साजिश क्या रही है। आप जो है वो जनादेश के जरिए तो जीत नहीं पा रहे थे, तो आपने जो है वो विदेशी रूट पकड़ा और विदेशी साजिशी सुपारी के सिंडिकेट बन गए।
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.